Hey, it's Chris. What are you talking about today? Fled. You may know Mark Swanson not by name, but by pedigree. The creator of Feudum, if you remember that heavier worker placement game. Well, he's taken his skills in iconography to the tile laying scheme of things, and this is Fled, where you were a prisoner trying to escape from, well, a prison and the warden in capturing you in the first place. How are you going to do it? How do you manipulate it? How do you use so much iconography and maximize tiles while still minimizing overhead? Is this game right for you? Do you like a little bit of a crunchier, shorter tile laying game? Well, then I have a treat for you. Let's talk. So what you see here in front of you, I have the stack of tiles, I have the main layout, I have the wardens on this side, and all of these are going to be manipulatable. So this game is a lot heavier than it appears just on surface value. You take your meeples, they start out in their color-coded bedrooms. You are adjacent to the main area. It gives you the symbology that you're going to know. In this 8 different rooms, as well as 5 different tools that you are going to be manipulating, not only to score victory points in case no one escapes, but actually trying to escape to an outward part of the prison before you're captured, or before essentially the warden runs out of time and tiles. What you're doing in this game is you start out with 5 tiles each turn, and you're going to be using 3 of these tiles on a turn-by-turn basis at least. You play one to the board in any way that matches up. And this is the tricky part. On the sides of these tiles, there are rooms, there are doors connecting them, there are windows connecting them, there are tunnels connecting them, there are barriers, there are just entryways. As you lay them down, you need to make sure that they line up. No windows to doors, for example. So you have to make sure that it works. If it doesn't work, you can't do it. And then you take the rest of these tiles and you get to choose 2 other actions that you can do with them. One, gain some contraband, gain some inventory, score some points, move your person, or move the wardens, who are potentially going to be placed as you get more moon tiles on the board. Also on the side here, you have the warden sort of lurking and keeping track in his quarters what's going on. Not only when is going to be the best time to escape, but also who's going to get caught if the whistle goes off. As you move across this, there are 2 symbols on each of these tiles. Well, if you have a matching tile there, well, you can avoid capture and you can allow yourself to get contraband potentially a little bit easier. If you can also go on that tile, it also allows you to get out a little easier, as when you're growing the warden's walls, one of these tiles that you're going to have, for example, is going to tell you how many tools of that type you need to get out. But if it matches the symbol that you're in and the tool that lines up here, then it only costs you 1. And so that's the main objective of this game. Get caught, go back to your room. Get extra caught, well, you get the shackle on top of your character card there, which is going to lose you some time in order to get out, because this game only goes until you can't refill your hand. That's it. Or somebody escapes. Everyone else gets 1 turn, and if you can't escape, well, you don't win. Now, the tricky part here is the symbology that goes with this. This seems complicated. It seems convoluted. And I was a little overwhelmed at first, and then it clicked, because it's really just, what each thing does. It's really straightforward. Each of the 4 tools gets you through 4 of the different doorways. Each of the colors corresponds to the rarity of the contraband, or the value of it. The higher the value, the more it costs to discard. So here you can see, for example, the 4 different icons, the tools that you have available at your disposal. Not only are they going to be useful for going through different entryways, if you will, keys through doors, boots through hallways, files through the grates on the walls, the windows, as well as spoons to go through the underground tunnels. But they're also going to have colors that are going to correspond behind them, which are going to allow you to get them in their inventory to score endgame points. But you can see, in order to get a green, I have to discard a red. If in order to get a yellow, I have to discard 2 tiles. And so that's going to be the dynamic that you're going to have to do. In order to get some of these, you're going to have to give up significant ones in the first place, which is going to make the decision making all that more difficult, but also in a very rewarding puzzle-like manner, which I was not expecting, which was, again, another reason this game was a very, very pleasant surprise overall. The other thing that I can see people going either way on, right, is the tiles. Because you're randomly drawing, there is some mitigation though, and that's really the nice thing, because you're going to have 5 tiles in your hand at once. And so you're going to have combinations of both the colors, the icons, as well as what you're going to have available to you in the actual sides of the tile in order to line them up. And that's where the AP might come in, because you'll have the windows, the doors, as well as the entryways, as well as the tunnels that will show up in addition. And so how you traverse those, how you line those up, and how far you put them, because you can put them anywhere off of anyone's tiles, your own included. And so you might just put them by you might use it to mess up somebody else's path in the first place, but most of the time it's going to be more beneficial to worry about yourself, unless you're moving the warden and that's your only move, than to go after other people. As you're dealing with the warden, the whistle's going to be moving across. The moon here is going to be being flipped over to determine when the right time to leave is, well, depending on where you are, because these are going to be the areas that are going to be easier to escape from if they have this icon on them. But the whistle is also going to tell you where you can transfer some of this contraband. And so that's the nice thing. That's why you may actually want to do some take that, which is a little bit of a dichotomy that we're not necessarily used to. Take that to gain benefit, not because of the direct action, but because maybe it moves it over to the area that's going to allow you to stash more contraband easily, especially if you can't get to the room with the chaplain in the first place. One other thing I can see people really not liking, because this game plays up to 4, and you have turns that are going to go by where you have absolutely no control over things, including the warders coming after you. You could have potentially 3 people, target you in more than one way, so that you could get a little bit stacked on from this ball and chain as a literal way of, sort of setting you back compared to your opponents. That especially could make a little bit of a problem if you just happen to be the one person in a higher player count game where that happens to. You're not really going to be able to deal with that, and that can be a little off-putting. So I'd say maybe the preferred player count for me personally at this point would probably not be 4, it'd probably be 2 or 3. Something to know. So for example, when you take the contraband here, you can see that there are 4 different colors here that you're going to be operating against. The wild card, it's going to cost you 2. The gold, it's going to cost you 2. The purple, it's going to cost you 1. The green, it's going to cost you 1 over here with the teal. And so the more valuable it is, you're trying to essentially get it into your stash, because not only is it going to give you the ability to use it later to escape if you need it, it's also going to be very, very important end game scoring points if nobody escapes. But otherwise, to get these in there, you're either going to have to choose between utilizing them as their ability or utilizing them as the end game scoring, because you only have 3 tiles here total in your inventory at any time, including at the end, unless one of them is a wild, which again gets you points and an extra slot, but they're harder to get in and they're less common overall. The gold ones, again, less common, harder to get in there, having to discard more things. So it's always, when you've got 5 tiles in your hand, which one am I going to play? How is it going to match up to this? And then after I play it, how am I going to discard down? Because I might need this, this, and this for my next actions, but I want to get this one in my inventory to be able to use later in whatever manner. And so there's a lot going on here, but it's not overwhelming. And I was worried here when you have all of these elements with so much going on an individual tile by tile basis. I was concerned that there was just too much, that it was going to be overwhelming, that all of this stuff iconography wise was just going to be convoluted and it was going to overcomplicate things. And happily enough, I was wrong actually. It actually works rather smoothly. More moons, you flip over one of these and you determine what tiles are going to be easier to get out of during the nighttime. Essentially moonlight is illuminating these tiles, making it easier to get out from these tiles in the first place. Again, another huge concern I had was, this is complicated. How long is it going to go? Can this game overstay its welcome? Well, honestly, no, it can't, because when you redraw potentially up to 3 or 4 tiles every single time, that's not a lot of tiles in the game to begin with. And so the turns are much quicker than I expected. They're much more interactive than I expected. And the game actually just finishes appropriately, which is a great blessing of this. I was not expecting that. I expected this to slog on, and it didn't. And that was really great. So highs, yeah. Playtime, great. Thematic incorporation, absolutely fantastic. The combination system over here, in terms of the iconography, choosing between both how you're going to play the room correspondings and go in between them in the first place, then also having the matching iconography to go between them, and then also saving the tools that are going to allow you to escape in the first place from some of these areas. It just is really good. Downsides? Things you may not like, well, you're not going to like take that. You're not going to like moving the warden around to different areas to capture your opponent or to send them back to their own individual jail cell bed. Well, yeah, that's going to be a big detriment. How much take that you want to have. Also, it's rather easy because this map does not get laid out rather large, because although you're laying one tile down every single turn, sometimes you're not spreading them out nearly as far or wide spanning as you may think in other tile laying games that are similar or utilize similar mechanics. And so it's very easy to get back and forth because the wardens can just go through doors without trouble. And they can also move further than you on a turn-by-turn basis. The other thing you might not like, one of these tiles to get out, if you draw that much sooner than somebody else, and you just happen to have the right combination of things at the right time, especially early on in the game, you might escape really soon, which again is great, but I can see that being a little anticlimactic, and thankfully in my games that hasn't happened, but I could see the right combination of circumstances being slightly disappointing from that aspect of things. So all in all, this is really impressive. I was not expecting it to be this good, to be frank with you. It's really doing something different from a tile laying. And again, I was concerned about the amount of iconography and the combination system of not only using the colors, the symbols, the inventory, all as victory points, as well as actual mechanisms to traverse the game. But the sum is totally greater than the individual parts here. I think people are really going to like this as something, again, that has a heavier feel from a tile laying stance, but doesn't have the game length to match it. And that is rare, especially with tile laying games. Does this sound good to you? If you're like me, it should. So, yeah. Mark sent this to me. I'm talking about it. There you go. Let me know. Comments, questions, concerns down below. If you're interested, check it out. Coming out near you in the future. Stay classy. Have a great freaking day.